Hi guys, how are you today? Ready for new stories I have for you? Let's go to the first one, about OP's ex-wife, who demands OP takes her on vacation with him, their children, and OP's girlfriend, and of course, pay for her. OP is refusing to do that, and OP's mother is blaming OP for treating the mother of his kids badly. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment. Just to be clear, I am not planning to go on any vacations anytime soon, at least until all of this is over with. Me and my now ex-wife got married straight out of high school, both 18, and honestly, really stupid. Same year she got pregnant, and we had another child a year later. Well, as you can probably understand, eventually we ended up divorcing. We turned into very different people, and we argued all the time. Eventually, she cheated and I filed for divorce 9 years ago. The kids are now 16 and 15, and that is deemed relevant. We got split custody. Our divorce pretty much made me realize what I was missing, to be honest. I felt suffocated in our marriage. I got more confident, in shape, and went back to college, and now I work in a great job and make roughly 4 to 5 times what I did when we were married. Of course, this means I can take the kids on great vacations and spoil them a bit. The stuff we used to dream of being able to do 10 years ago. After a few years of that, my ex got jealous and started whining at the kids about not getting to go, which has led to my daughter asking me to take my ex with us next time because she felt bad. I told her I understood. However, she should not feel bad about it, and that I won't be taking my ex-wife with us, as it would be weird at best, as I would not like to have her along, and I think my girlfriend would like it even less. A few months ago, my ex called me herself to ask to come along, as she wants vacations with the kids too. So I felt bad and told her if she wanted to, she could take them on a vacation and I wouldn't that year. She shot that down and instead insisted on coming along and how she'd be in her own room and so on. I am a softie, so again I relented. Well, turns out, she told our daughter I agreed to take her along and pay for her and so on. So I called her again and clarified I was not paying for anything, and I was only paying for me, my girlfriend, and the kids. If she wanted to come, it would be at her own expense. Well, she raged and got mad I would pay for my girlfriend and not my ex-wife. I mean, what? So I told her this was a bad idea, and she was hereby disinvited, full stop. She posted about it on social media, whined about it to everyone who'd listen, and now I am literally getting messages from my own mom and even some mutual friends about treating the mother of my children badly. I am honestly lost. Am I missing something here? Am I somehow the a-hole? OP is not an a-hole. OP's ex-wife is trying to manipulate the kids to get to OP and take her along. OP owes her nothing. She's upset because she had a good thing, and now it's gone. And OP has turned his life around. She wants back in. OP needs to stand his ground and refuse to pay for her vacation or anything else. She can yell and scream and post whatever she wants, but she's still the ex. Also, OP needs to have a very serious talk with his daughter and explain why bringing exes on vacation is not at all normal, and that her mother used her to pressure him. That is not okay. But OP needs to do it in a way so that it is still respectful towards her mother, but teaches her that manipulation is not okay. If you stick with this whole story, then I would really appreciate some advice, because I honestly have no idea what to do at this point. For basic info, I live on the West Coast and my brother more Midwest. So to start things off, my brother and I didn't really grow up together due to our age difference. I was an oops baby, born late in my parents' lives, and by the time I even have some of my earliest memories, he had already been 18 and off to join the Navy. When I was about 16, some stuff went down with him and the mother of his 3 kids, so he moved back in with my parents to go back to school. This was when he was roughly the age that I am now, and I am currently doing the same thing. I moved in with my father about 8 months ago and have been diligently going to school ever since in order to pull myself out of pointless customer service jobs and actually be able to make a good living wage. I am eternally grateful to my dad for letting me do this. However, I had also been looking forward to getting at least a part-time job this summer. Back toward the middle of June, my brother called my mom and asked if either her or myself would come and help him out for a while this summer. His original ask was pretty vague, but he indicated he wanted someone to come out in July for a few weeks to help out during his recovery times after heavy chemo. Just easy stuff, some cooking, running for groceries, cleaning, errands, etc. Just to help out while he's feeling really sick, and the rest of the time would be mine. He said he would buy the plane ticket and provide money for food, etc., as well as use of his car. I agreed to go and therefore postponed looking for a job. A few weeks later, I spoke to him again, and he said that he'd changed his mind, and he would prefer to come in August, around the time of his surgery, because he'd be even more immobile than from just chemo. His cancer is a giant mass on his right knee, so after it's removed, he won't just be feeling weak or sick from chemo, but it would even be harder to get around. I wasn't thrilled about this because I was already planning to be back by August and able to then look for a job, but I still agreed. I agreed because if it were me, I would be scared to hell about having cancer and would definitely want my family around me. However, then came time for him to book the flight. From where I live to where he lives is roughly a 4-hour flight, but he didn't book me a direct flight. He turned a quick 4-hour flight into a 10-hour ordeal with layovers, and on top of it, didn't even pay to pre-select a seat for me. The difference in cost between the flight he booked me and a direct flight with an actually booked seat was only roughly $30. This may not seem like a big deal to most of you, but for me, it's a culmination of how completely self-centered my brother has always been. He will call me up and I'll be talking to him about what I've been up to, and he'll offer to buy me things for Christmas, birthday, whatever, usually something electronic like a laptop that I could use for school, and then never speak of it again. I guess he likes to feel good about wanting to help, but never actually follows through. This is a theme in his life, as he's skipped out on a lot of child support for his children, whom he literally never sees, and I have no idea if they even know he has cancer at all, because he never speaks to them, despite them now being 20 years old. He will brag about all of the sugar babies, girlfriends he has in all the places he travels to, and how he flies them to visit him where he lives with first-class tickets. He also just bought a $60,000 car about a month ago. This is just to say that he rakes in the money, and he makes sure that everyone in our family knows it. I don't know if I should bother adding this in, but the reason our relationship is already strained is because about 4 years ago, we both had moved out to live in New York City. We didn't go together or live together. We just kind of ended up in the same area. So I would take the train up from the city to visit him in his place in Connecticut 1 or 2 times a month, and often would bring my laundry with me. He didn't pay for me to take the train, and he always seemed happy to have me around. Eventually, he started seeing a girl who was a couple years younger than me that he met on a sugar baby website. There was one weekend in particular that he had made plans for me to come up and visit him, but also plans for her to as well. So she and I took the train up from the city together so he could pick us up at the same time. She was a pretty cool person, and we hit it off and became friends. Well, later that night, while I was trying to sleep in the living room, he starts trash-talking me to her with his door open so that I can hear every word. Honestly, at this point, I don't even remember what he said, but I remember how hurtful it was and how betrayed I felt that my brother thought such horrible things about me, let alone that he would say them when he knew I could hear. I've never taken advantage of him or asked him for anything. I had just been happy to have family nearby that made New York City feel less lonely being so far from home. She even asked me if I was okay the next day and said she had felt so uncomfortable that he had been saying those things because she knew I could hear him. So that brings us to now. I'm not asking for a first-class ticket. I'm not picky. I put my plans and financial situation on hold for going on 2 months because I was planning to come and help him out. But he couldn't even buy me a direct flight for me to spend a total of 5 weeks helping him recover and asking for absolutely nothing in return. Just because he's my family and I know how I would feel if it were me. So in the end, about a week before my flight that was set to leave today, and a day after he actually bought the ticket, I told him that I would not be coming. He's now berating both of our parents and telling them to tell me to grow a pair of balls and just explain to him why I won't be coming. But I just don't think it will help. He's at best oblivious of his horrible personality, and at worst, outright disrespectful and mean on purpose. And I feel that if I had gone, I would have been setting myself up for and slavery while being unable to come home, instead of just lending a helping hand out of love and having it be appreciated by him. So I guess my question is mostly just, do I bother calling him to try to explain? I don't know that it would help or that he would even hear me. My mom asked him why he's so disrespectful to me, just of her own observations, and he acted oblivious. And my dad tried to advise him that being kind or showing appreciation by at least buying a direct flight could have helped, and he just responded calling him an a-hole. They've always had a strained relationship, but that would take too long to get into, and this is already way too long. I want to tell him exactly why I'm not going, but honestly, at this point, I'm beyond caring. This situation doesn't even weigh on my mind because of how much he has done to show me that I don't matter to him as family, or even as a friend. And the only thing I'm sorry about is that he had to spend the money to buy a $170 ticket that didn't get used, because that is just wasteful. He's my brother, and I want to show him compassion, but I just don't think I can. Please, any advice on what I should do would be so helpful, because even though I feel like I don't care anymore, he's still my family and going through a hard time. I don't want to make it worse for him. I think OP needs to call him and tell him everything, but not to explain himself. She needs to tell him how she feels and how much he hurt her and keeps hurting her. Of course, OP needs to set and enforce her boundaries at some point, sooner rather than later. Maybe the timing is not perfect, but I guess OP just ran out of patience as she was experiencing crappy brother's behavior for so long. Update. So, it's been about 2.5 months since I posted asking for advice about this situation with my brother. I got some pretty split advice. Some saying I was an a-hole for canceling on him right before my flight, and others saying he was inconsiderate, and that cancer doesn't excuse a lifetime of bad behavior. Well, both sides were right in part, but what ended up happening took the decision out of my hands anyway. After my mom mentioned to my brother that I wasn't going to go, he was rightfully mad about it, but actually didn't even try to contact me. Instead, he phoned and texted my mom and then emailed my dad about how terrible of a person I am and how I needed to grow balls and explain why I didn't want to come. He even blatantly blamed my dad, saying he must have done something to make me not want to go. My mom stayed out of it, but my dad replied to the email, saying that maybe he should be nicer if someone was putting their life on hold to come help him. He also mentioned that he was happy to go and help him instead of me. My brother responded to that by calling my dad an a-hole and saying he didn't want his help. He later emailed again saying he would appreciate help and that he should fly out after all. I feel like I should give some additional background on my brother and why I was so bothered by the ticket he got me. Firstly, he spends a ridiculous amount of money on women for money, sugar babies, whatever. I don't know how much, and I don't want to know, but I know sugar babies in particular are not cheap to keep around. Also, every time I speak to him, he brags about how he flies one of these girls he sees from North Carolina to Chicago first class once a month, and he just leased a $60,000 car. So honestly, I could give a crap about flying coach. I'll even sit in a middle seat. But dude couldn't even get me a direct flight when I'm putting my life on hold for 2 months to come and help him. It was just really hurtful to me, given these things, that he wouldn't even spring for an extra $30 for a direct flight for me to come help him for such an extended period of time. In addition to this, he's originally asked for help way back in June, and when I said yes, he kept pushing the dates back for 2 months, which restricted me from getting a job, as it's unlikely anyone would hire me if I mentioned I needed to leave for 2 months, only a month after starting the job. There's so much more I could say about how he's treated our dad for so many years too, but this is already long, and that is not super relevant anyway. Let's just say he basically blames all of the problems of his life on our dad. I kind of went on a tangent there, but I just wanted to provide more backstory as to why it was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. What ended up happening was my dad went to Chicago and was there for my brother as he went through this surgery to remove the tumor. However, after 2 weeks of being there, my dad had a stroke. It was fairly minor, all things considered, but he lost most functionality in both his left arm, hand, and left leg. So I ended up getting a call around midnight the night it happened, and 24 hours later, I was on a flight to Chicago myself. The last 6 weeks or so since then have been insanely busy. I was driving to and from both of their different hospitals to bring them things and visit, grocery shopping, doing errands, laundry, cooking, etc. for both of them, with very little time to myself. I honestly was happy to do it, and it went better than expected given the circumstances. My brother definitely showed his a-hole colors on a few occasions, but I just tried to ignore it as much as possible and focus on the work I needed to do. He also did some nice things too, so it was all right. His surgery went well, 99.9% margins on the tumor, and he's got 2 more rounds of chemo to go just to make sure it's gone for good. My dad has been insanely determined to recover from his stroke and has made significant improvements in just 6 weeks. He went from not being able to walk to using a walker and has already moved on to a cane. Still a long way to go, but we were lucky that he didn't lose any speech abilities or cognitive function. So that is all there is. Thank you to everyone. It really did help me get some perspective on my own actions and decide what boundaries are important to me.